Hey everyone, thanks for tuning into this week's episode of Circus of Time Review Movie News Podcast. Where this week we're going to be talking about all the Warner Brothers drama surrounding it over the last week or two, and even before that for a number of years. So we're going to get into some history of it. But before we do all that, of course, I want to introduce the guests that I have on the show today. We got some newcomers coming over from the UK. You can find them on their YouTube channel doing their movie reviews and some movie news updates as well. We have Chris and Grant from the Cinema Minute Chat. Welcome, guys.
Hi guys, how you doing?
Thanks for coming on. Like I said, glad you guys got to put some time away for today. But like I said, we're going to jump into the Warner Brothers things. You guys probably been paying attention along with everybody else. We've been hearing a lot of things about Warner Brothers, whether it be the Batman v Superman, Suicide Squad, now even like movies going forward. So jumping into just what we just had with Suicide Squad, I want to get you guys. I know you've done your own review as well, but just your first initial reactions when you left Suicide Squad. What were your first thoughts when you were leaving the movie theater upon reviewing it?
That's a big question.
Yeah, disappointment, abject disappointment. Yeah, I'm reading about the lawsuit as you were saying earlier. It just really didn't expect it to be so bad from how good the trailers looked. So when you watch the trailers, I got all excited about this central story about Joker and Harley Quinn. There was nothing like that in the story. It was just exactly the same as the problems with the last two films. Just, the plot wasn't there. There's just nothing holding your interest.
Yeah, we got into this in a bit in our review, but I think there was so much excitement, especially based on those initial trailers, which was so invigorating and so interesting and so unique.
Yeah.
And then, kind of 15 minutes into the film, I was like, it doesn't have that liveliness at all. It's just
Didn't it feel like a trailer? All the trailers were put into the first 15 minutes, kind of.
Yeah, that was
it was just like, it was like, the excitement was just completely gone from the film. I think the word we said about like 50 times during our review was just that it felt dull. And like nothing about the trailers was dull, though. You know what I mean?
That was it. Yeah, great soundtrack. I'll definitely bounce.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
very expensive, but very awesome soundtrack. Yeah, I agree with you guys. I didn't do a review myself, but my reactions were like the same thing. Excited going in. I just felt it was hollow. Like we went from the first act straight to the third act. There was no like middle or setting up. The plot, of course, when you find out that David Ayer had 6 weeks to write before the production, you realize, this is a 6-week writing job, or at least the editing job themselves. Because then we find out later that Warner Brothers had the Trailer Park Company actually cut the full movie that we all got to see. So then you realize, that's why the first 15 minutes felt like a trailer. You're like, wow.
This was something that really like
shocked with anything.
I mean, anything where it's an ensemble piece isn't going to be that traditional narrative to some extent, but this felt so like little vignettes and compartmentalized and stuff like that. It's just so difficult to watch, and that's not an experience you want, I suppose.
I think the biggest thing was they just blew such a big chance because they had all these characters and they had that unique chance to like bring a new different type of story to movies as opposed to following the same generic movie plot that we've been seeing, movie hero plot with the same, the beam at the end of the movie you had to stop.
We talked about that. I mean, this film had again so much potential, not just for like looking different and looking vibrant, but for what it was as well. It was something that again, not to compare it too much to Marvel, but I feel like it's a difficult thing not to do.
Absolutely.
Marvel haven't done something where it's focused on the villains yet. Maybe you've had like Guardians of the Galaxy where it's like a different take on a team or whatever.
Team,
but they haven't done the villains thing yet, and they haven't had one where a female character is so central as Harley Quinn was to this as well. But both of those things feel like such squandered potential.
On the Guardians of the Galaxy thing, I think that's the exact thing they've tried to go for there with this film. They try to use that kind of formula of a great soundtrack and just like a fun film, but the whole tone of it's just dull and it just doesn't work.
Yeah, the soundtrack was good. Like you guys said, the Suicide Squad, when they first, when Guardians of the Galaxy came out and then they announced Suicide Squad, they were basically comparing this is DC's Suicide or Guardians of the Galaxy, which I was fine with because I love Guardians of the Galaxy. I love what they did with it. And so we started seeing those trailers with the great music and everything. I was like, this is going to be awesome. And then we get to the movie and it's just the music is just like it's so on the nose in regards to where it's starting. It doesn't go with the narrative. It's just like a first timer putting music into their trailer they made on for YouTube. It's not something you would think it's for a movie. It doesn't blend well like a Scorsese soundtrack. It just hits you starts right at the beginning of the song. Like, did I just hit next on all these tracks?
It's someone's iPod shuffle, isn't it? I mean, like That's the thing. Again, we talked about this in our review again, so anyone watching can check that out afterwards. But it is that thing of every scene, just changing the music to sort of fit that. And music is something so powerful in film where it can really set a tone and give you that feeling. But when it's just kind of shoved in there, like, oh, here's a Rolling Stones song, and here's whatever song, here's
this is Harley Quinn's theme.
Exactly.
It's just kind of there just to be like, Warner Brothers have clearly like spent loads of money on this and kind of nothing more. I suppose.
Yeah, it's like we know the sound or the budget was 150 million plus. Like probably a good half of that was paying for those music. And so yeah, and like what I said with the trailer park company, I think this is one of the first times the companies had the trailer production companies cut a full movie, and I didn't know that while I was watching, but the first 20 minutes you're like, man, this is like. I didn't say it, but in my head I was like, this is almost like a bunch of trailers put together, intro to trailers put together, and then it kind of once the second act isn't existent and it goes straight into the third act, you're like, yeah, this is becoming a mess.
Needed a montage. That's all they needed. Just a good montage of training or something.
Yeah, I would have taken some '90s upbeat music to go with that montage. It would have made it that much better.
Like if this film had like a Will Smith sort of comedy rap song, exactly.
Oh yeah.
Like like Men in Black, like Wild West.
Yeah, Wild Wild West, man. But bring the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, bring it all back for him. Yeah. Like you said, there's so many unique opportunities that could have been taken for this movie. They just did not. And the ending for me was, of course, a big disappointment because the Enchantress thing is just like the girl. Basically, it was the black woman who started it all. I can't think of her name.
CIA sort of,
her, I can't think of her name, but it's basically her fault. She brings the Enchantress out, and then they lose the Enchantress, and then they have to beat the Enchantress. So it's like, this makes no damn sense.
It's one of those things where there was like, we talk about that squandered potential, but there were those moments where it like really worked as well. And you can see there has been so much stuff, especially on Twitter, on YouTube, of people really defending this film and saying they loved it. And there were those moments where it does live up to that potential of the trailer. Like, there was bits where Will Smith was genuinely like captivating and interesting to watch. And again, the actors involved with this,
it's an all-star cast. It's an amazing cast. They must have spent a lot of money on the cast alone. But
that's the thing, Margot Robbie plays it really well. But then she's given not much to do, or like sort of
just a side
dodgy
character.
Sort of stuff to do in the scripts. Or like little visual moments, like again mentioning the Enchantress, the thing where she transforms with the sort of
that was awesome. As soon as I saw that was one like that in my head, I was like, that's awesome. And then like I've seen everybody make a reference to that scene. I was like, they should realize those unique scenes. They should. I mean, obviously it's hard to make up those types of scenes for everything, but man, they need to capitalize on those unique scenes like that one.
That's the thing. There was moments of that, and moments where it was funny, and moments where it was, everything it promised to be, but
it didn't blend together in the end.
That was only moments in a 2-hour-long film.
Yeah, that's how I described it to my friends. I was like, it's got amazing scenes sprinkled into some weird like Snapchat like editing. It's crazy. It was crazy. So kind of staying in on the Suicide Squad, we had some other news coming out. Jared Leto playing the Joker. I thought it was pretty. I liked him. I didn't think he was the best Joker. I didn't hate him. I just thought he did a pretty good job. But then we were finding out there's a lot of deleted scenes left on the editing floor of the Joker. And Harley Quinn's backstory that we wish we would have seen more of, because that, to me, was the most interesting part of those flashbacks, was the Harley Quinn and Joker part. And a lot of people are misunderstanding who don't know about the comics or the anime series what the relationship is really like. So they're like, this is sexist. I'm like, do you know what this is like the relationship is supposed to be about? So going back into that, Jared Leto keeps bringing up the fact that maybe there are going to be some deleted scenes, or he wished more scenes were brought out. Did you like Jared Leto's scenes? Do you think they should be more, or do you think they felt maybe his performance wasn't up to par, so they did cut some?
Yeah, it didn't feel like the Joker, like the classic canon version of the Joker that you read about or you see in like other media. Just a bit of a gangster, really.
That's
a lot of craziness for him.
Again, it had to be something different, I guess, because within the last 20 years or whatever, there's 3 really definitive Jokers in Jack Nicholson, going back to Batman.
Yeah.
But also Heath Ledger, most notably, I suppose, you know, in Dark Knight. But also, you know, Mark Hamill, for anyone who's sort of a wider fan. And, you know, the massive legacy Mark Hamill's left in the animated series, but in stuff like the
Killing Joke as well.
The Killing Joke, obviously, recently, and the video games as well, and the Arkham series. You know, so he goes free between them, leaving massive legacy. And I guess the fact they've tried to do something different with this Joker is kind of commendable, you know, but having just redid it like Mark Hamill, or redid it like, you know, doing a bit like a Heath Ledger thing. But the thing they've done is, like, being different's good, and but then if the thing you're different as is
not that or is like improving on the original image,
and that's what I found. You know, it was different, but it wasn't captivating. And like you know, it was just like kind of a gangster, and you know, there's things going around saying, well, he wasn't even funny, and like even sort of perverse way, like the Joker. You know, like not saying the Joker's
hilarious,
but like you know, it just seemed like he was just kind of a bit of a dick.
Yeah, he kind of seemed like people have described him as like that good-looking asshole guy who just happens to dress weird and like acts a little quirky.
He watched Scarface when he was 15. And just like,
exactly. And yeah, you're right. Like, I feel for me, it was more of like a physical thing. Like, I like the way he looked, and, you know, I kind of like the difference take on that. But like you said, the personality, like with Mark Hamill leaving a legacy on the anime series, and we've had, you know, renditions with Heath Ledger and Jack Nicholson. We were kind of hoping they would stay like somewhat in the vein of it. Like you said, they just kind of jumped out and did the full gangster thing, and he just kind of looks like him. And even with the teeth, the grill, you know, people were like saying that's like what like rappers were doing a few years ago, when really like the story was supposed to be like Batman knocked his teeth out after supposedly killing Robin, but like they don't explain that in the movie, so people who don't know just think he has a grill.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's supposedly one of the deleted scenes going around, isn't it, where Batman sort of beating him up earlier. But again, it's, you know, I suppose with
but why make a film and put all these amazing scenes in and not just leave them on the cutting room floor? I'd rather see a longer film than like a crap plot. You know what I mean?
Was it barely like maybe a little over 2 hours? It wasn't like a full 2.5 hour, you know, 2:45 movie.
Lord of the Rings, like,
It was no Peter Jackson cut.
I was gonna say,
I suppose
with the Batman vs Superman extended edition, like you've seen the extended cut of Batman vs Superman, haven't you?
Not yet. No.
Oh, okay. Neither of us have seen the extended cut.
I have. So yeah, I like it.
What did it improve anything about the actual story of it?
It's really is. It's just all the scenes that you know from the beginning are just like quick cuts. They're extended a little bit longer. They've added a couple scenes in between them that explain why some were so jarring to go from one to the other. Yeah, it's just a little bit more, just a couple like few seconds of scenes to maybe do a little more emphasis and context, but nothing like 10 minutes of footage of like additional Batman and Superman fighting each other or anything like that.
That's the thing. I guess I bring it up because it seems like obviously Suicide Squad in a couple of months' time is going to have that Ultimate Edition or extended cut or whatever you might call it.
The Joker Edition.
Really, it could be the Joker Edition, I suppose, with more Joker and Harley Quinn. And like, it's a weird thing. Like, if you've got a better version of a film, that is the film you should release.
Exactly.
Like, you shouldn't
no
release
matter how long
the version. Yeah, and like, if a film was 90 minutes and it's amazing, then it's still amazing. Or if it's 3 hours and it's amazing, it's still amazing.
Yeah. If
it's somewhere in between and you've cut bits out because you might put it in the DVD or the Blu-ray later, or you kind of haven't cut it how you wanted to, or cut it by committee, which seems like it may have happened with Warner Brothers.
Oh yes.
It's it's just kind of, nobody wants that, and especially if we're all expecting now, but like, oh well, we'll see more of this film in a couple of months' time. Like, I would rather see that film straight away. You know what I mean, as opposed to like, this is like 80% of a film, and you're going to see 100% when you're
Christmas.
Exactly.
Yeah, save up 40 extra bucks for the extended, which is actually goes into the next thing that I do want to talk about. Kind of talking, not quite I want the WB lawsuit talk right after this, but I want to talk about unnecessary extended and director's cuts that we have been getting over the last few years. Like going back to The Hobbit, you know, we got the regular version, then we got the super extended that they re-released in theater, so they wanted you to go pay for a movie theater, then go buy the Blu-ray of the extended. So like triple dip, not double, but triple dipping on consumers. And yeah. Oh, I got my multiple versions. I fell for it. I'm not saying I didn't fall for it. I'm just saying it happens. And So yeah, so they did that with with Watchmen with Zack Snyder. They cut down dramatically his cut, and so they can have more viewings and things like that. They did it with obviously Batman v Superman and now Suicide Squad. But there are rumors saying that they may not do the director's or extended, but all the scenes that were taken out are just going to be the deleted, maybe documentary kind of thing. But I mean, do you guys expect that we will get the WP or I mean the extended version? And are you obviously seeing the pattern, and what do you think could happen to stop this?
I guess it'll have to be based on how well the ultimate cut of Superman does financially for Warner Brothers. I guess like as a company decision, like that's what they'll base it on. And that's why you got the Lord of the Rings extended editions 10 years ago, as you were saying, and then got them again for The Hobbit and etc. And it's that thing of where
change that formula though, because that's what's not working for it. It's been looked at as a business idea as opposed to what fans would want.
And there's examples where it has worked. I mean, like again, Ridley Scott is a big component. Like one ultimate cut. So again, you got the Alien director's cut and stuff too.
We got like 7 versions of Blade Runner.
You get every couple of years again. This is the final cut. But in those examples, they are interesting or different for a reason, or improved. Yeah. I mean, controversially, there's obviously the Star Wars versions of that as well, with the special editions in the 90s and stuff too. For better or for worse, it is what the director wanted more. But these ones don't feel like it's what the director wanted. It doesn't seem like it's, again, like chasing a director's vision. Like, these are special effects George Lucas couldn't do in the 70s. So here it is in the 90s. Or, again, like, here's the better version of Alien because they've kind of altered this part to it or whatever it may be.
Or with Lord of the Rings, it's like we had all these scenes that don't fit the plot or the story, but here they are to make it, to bring some more to the footage.
But, it adds something for, like, fans, I guess, as well. And these decisions don't seem like that. These decisions just seem like from that corporate level of like, we can make people pay for it in the cinema, and then we can take it to see the actual film in 4 months' time or something like that.
Yeah, and like with the Hobbit, like I was going back to, like we found out that Peter Jackson, he was brought in late, Guillermo del Toro kind of left the production. He wanted to do his own. So they're like making up the story as they're going. And, we get a version, we get our, the Battle of Five Armies without like a funeral, without a lot of actual plot points unresolved, and then we have to wait till the extended version comes out like 6 to 8 months later before we really know what the full movie is like. So we paid for the movie 3 times by the time we've actually seen the full movie. So you're right, it's a corporate thing that they are just triple and double dipping. It used to be for let's give the fans what they want. Now it's like, well, we know what the fans want, so let's take advantage of that and like trickle out the information, trickle out the footage.
I think it comes from like release dates being so set in stone as well, which is like again a business decision. And like we see this with the Marvel films and with the DC films and with the Star, any of these big blockbusters, you get this. But release dates being announced years and years in advance.
And all the news and media around like around productions now as well. That was something that hadn't happened 10 years ago even.
Yeah, and but then it's so focused on it, and we know. Again, all Justice League's on this date and Wonder Woman's on this date, and again
3-4 years in advance,
and that can be really limiting to like, because again, it's the difference between a film being a piece of art and a film being a product that needs to be sold by a business. And it is that thing of like a director. David Ayer is a good director, that's kind of undoubtable. But if he kind of doesn't have the time to edit it, and it does get edited by some random company who's not connected with production, that'll affect it. And if he's got to write it, he's got only a month to write it before they start shooting because this and this reason.
They're just set up for failure basically at this point in time. Going back with, like you said, with the Ayer losing some control, even now Gareth Edwards with Rogue One, like he's not even able to edit his own movie. He's have to like advising over Tony Gilroy, who helped him edit Godzilla. And so it kind of leads back to the point, it's like, are all these major studios like Warner Brothers and others are hiring these somewhat not new, but like still proving themselves directors, you know, so they can have some control over what they do and they can have the editing. But in the end, they take over completely for what on their projects. They don't let them create themselves artistically. They make them fall within the guidelines of the franchise, and then they edit around behind their back, I guess, in most cases, on what the final product would look like. So like these directors really can't even claim their name to these things because it's not the final product. It's not really even theirs.
Yeah,
I mean, we saw the full thing of this last year with Fantastic Four, with Josh Trank. And you know, like Josh Trank again is, if you've seen his first film, like I've seen Chronicle, like he is an interesting director, and again, if you've heard a good storyteller, if you've heard interviews with him, again, he was on the Kevin Smith Fat Man on Batman series, I think it was last year, you know, where he did huge interviews, and you know, he's an interesting guy, an articulate guy, a guy who knows cinema, and you know. The film doesn't reflect that, but again, maybe it shares a similar thing with Suicide Squad, where it's got those moments where it's interesting and different and unique. But on the whole, it's just kind of a mess.
Yeah, with Fantastic Four, like it was a super divisive. Like the first, like for me, the first like 45 minutes, first act and a half, I was like, this has got a pretty solid, you know, starting. And then like you can tell where the studio's like, here's where we're gonna start making some edits, and like the 1 year later mark, and then it just goes off from there.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And you know, then that's why it goes from being like a weird sort of almost like David Cronenberg like sci-fi film at the start to being something where it is the traditional superhero thing of
template all the way.
We're all gonna just run into him and stuff. It's just so like again, it's that thing again. You do need to have, if you're gonna give a project like this to a director like again Josh Trank for that one, like Gareth Edwards for Rogue One, and you know it'll be interesting to see how that turns out. You know, you've kind of got to then
give them the creative control as well. I think that we're hitting the nail on the head with that one. We've got people like Zack Snyder who does make a great film, but he doesn't have a good sense of storytelling. The imagery's there, the aesthetics are beautiful, but it's just kind of, there's no plot there. And I think like not smaller time directors, but lesser known directors have a bit more creativity, a bit more flair for that. And giving them their creative reins and not taking them away right at the crucial moments of making a film will definitely have a good impact on DC, as opposed to what's currently happening with like Zack Snyder Hellman. I think he needs to go. I think that's how they could improve this whole scenario at the moment.
Yeah, and like you're saying with Zack Snyder, like his visuals and everything else are amazing, and then when storytelling, maybe he might have the knack for it, but maybe his scenes for storytelling are like 10 minutes long as opposed to the 2 minutes long. So like we can't keep this scene, we got to cut it all out. So like it just jumbles all these scenes together because he wants to make a 6-hour film that explains everything when really it should be they want a 2.5-hour film. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, where that, like, you know, because this has happened to Zack Snyder so much.
Yeah,
you know, if you think back even to Dawn of the Dead, there was an extended cut for that, his version, and then for Watchmen, and obviously now for Superman. You know, maybe it's kind of that like he knows he'll be able to do a longer version of it, so he might as well do it. But again, then the film eventually is going to suffer for it.
Yeah, and honestly, like. And he's held back so well because, you know, like you said, he's had experiences, movies being cut and fans reacting differently. And so he wasn't like reacting to the backlash. He wasn't calling out fans or saying, oh, I have a better version, you'll see it. Like he just waited. He knew that we would get the version that he meant for. Whereas like Paul Feig, who was just calling all the fans assholes or whatever for hating on the Ghostbusters, you know, he didn't let people react themselves. Zack Snyder's like, I know my version is going to be out there, so you'll get to enjoy it.
Yeah, and that's like, I think that's kind of a dangerous thing, though. Like, and again, it will affect the film. You know, the first time you see a film is the time you should have that true emotional response to it. Not thinking like, okay, I kind of like it now, or I don't like it now, but maybe I'll like it in 4 months when I get it.
Yeah, is it like they're making these films for the DVD release now, and the cinematic version is just a trailer for the longer version that's coming out?
That's honestly how it feels.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't seem to work, and it's happening so frequently now with Warner Brothers films. I think they do need to change something drastically for Wonder Woman coming out, for example.
But then it's kind of offensive in a way to fans, I would say, because you know, like it's kind of not having confidence in their own film. Or having confidence, you know, like you should, again, it's kind of disrespectful in a way because, you know, it's interesting to say that Marvel doesn't do that, say, you know, they kind of like, they trust the thing that they're releasing.
Yeah.
And it's like DC doesn't trust these films in a way, you know, and then they're just kind of like, well, we'll see what happens. And maybe for Suicide Squad, as you're saying, people will be like, oh, I wish there was more Joker and Harley Quinn in it. And then in a couple of months, if it's just deleted scenes or, you know, a little short they make out of it or an extended cut or whatever it could be, they'll be like, oh, well, here's what you actually wanted, not what we did.
Here's the apology edition we meant to give you the first time.
No, these ones are not Ultimate Editions, they are Apology Editions.
Apology Editions.
I think you've actually nailed it.
It's exactly what it is. And like that's what I was saying. Like I wonder how often this is gonna happen before everyone's like, okay, we're done. Give us the full movie in the theaters. We'll buy the extra footage, the commentary, the behind the scenes footage for the DVD, but we're not buying the DVD to get the full movie. We want the theaters to get that full movie. So give us at that point, and then we'll buy the DVDs for the extra footage and things like we want. But yeah, it's becoming a little more ridiculous than usual.
Again, that seems like the thing with the Peter Jackson ones. You know, if he is the, you know, sort of modern day originator of this extended cut, you know, it's because people loved those Lord of the Rings movies and wanted that extra 20 minutes more. And, you know, if you don't love it straight away, you shouldn't have to,
have to buy more.
Pay to maybe like it.
Exactly. It's really disappointing because this is such an exciting like time for films of like superhero films, and we've just had like an 18 months of really disappointing creative projects
from DC, especially.
From DC,
you know, I mean, it's and, you know, we talked about this again in our episode, but it is them trying to replicate the Marvel model and not having the like background in to do it, and just sort of saying, you know, again, that is what the opening of Suicide Squad reeks up like. You know, instead of an ensemble like the Avengers say, where you've had a movie to learn about all these characters and learn to love these characters and what they're all about, you just kind of get little vignettes again at the start of Suicide Squad, like here's Will Smith and his daughter, and that's why it's only 2 minutes long, so it's kind of finished. And here's Harley Quinn, but it's only a couple of minutes long, so I hope you like her already.
Or they slap the profiles right next to them, so that's how you get the introduction.
It's like the trading card or something. Like, okay, here's Killer Croc, and he's this guy, and he does this, and here's a like 30-second scene of him, and now you know who it is. Like that isn't enough to like have an emotional connection to a character, and you know that's kind of that's how an ensemble piece works. Well, that's why the Avengers works, because
you have a lot of origin stories as well with Avengers. I think that's where you need to start. Like, perfect example is Iron Man 3. So they spend a whole film talking about the aftermath of Avengers with Tony Stark, and that's a lot to put into a project for the next film. Do you know what I mean?
That's the thing, but they need to like breathe like that organically and then follow on from each other, as opposed to like again
stuffing it all in a 90-minute film and then trying.
Well, it's the order. It's just crazy. Like you guys said, they should have gone individual films first, but they went they went Man of Steel, and then they went Batman v Superman, where this is like their Avengers. The second movie was the Avengers, where Marvel did what, like 5 movies before they even got to Avengers.
And you know that's exactly, you know, if you go back a few months and watch our BVS review, that's exactly what we talk about. You know, they literally put sort of like trailers in the middle of the film, like here's the Flash, like you like the Flash, right? And here's Aquaman, he's loaded it up on his Dropbox or whatever. You know, it's that kind of like, as opposed to like naturally, organically finding out about a character, you know, just kind of having it shoved in your face. And,
to me, nothing's worse than that email in Batman v Superman, finding out about the
I'm still not over that.
Oh my god, I was like we get the awesome in Batman v Superman fight, but then to take care of this part, we just do that as an email. Yeah.
I'm Batman. I've got access to all this technology. Here's a quick email.
But it is like, you know, taking care of some characters.
Make sure you have PDF so it's compatible.
He's just like, if it was Batman just watching the little loading thing going around for ages in the middle of the screen, like that actually might have made the scene better.
Yeah, comedy.
That might have been
comedy value.
Maybe, but you're right. Yeah, organically these cameos just weren't really working in Suicide Squad. They were so forced. They read the reshoots. They were after the fact. They brought them in because they needed to start connecting things a little bit better. So yeah, and kind of moving forward from this, talking about the extended editions and what can be done to stop them. You know, now the most recent thing is we have the WB lawsuit, where a fan here actually, let me see, pull up the picture. Let's see here.
Read about this.
Let me know when you can see it. Maybe it's turned the other way. So this guy wants to sue WB, obviously, because him and his brother, they went to the Suicide Squad thinking they're going to see all these scenes that they saw in the trailers from the Joker and everything else, and they get there and they realize all these scenes are gone, and they like, we went there specifically for this, so we're going to sue you for false advertising for basically showing us clips that were never in the final product. Which the person has a good point. Is it goes back to they're taking scenes out that they're talking about putting in an extended edition or deleted scenes for footage, but another thing, the guy doesn't really realize that a lot, and you guys probably know, movies are getting edited from all the way up until like release date. So like some scenes just aren't going to make it, some scenes won't work. So yes, they are going to have scenes in there that may not fit the story when they first release the first trailer. So by the time the third one comes out, it's just not going to be in there. But the thing is too, is like I can see his point. They're telling us this is what you're going to see in this movie. You're going to see the Joker do this. You're going to see Harley do that. And then we get there and we don't see it. So what do you guys think about this lawsuit? I mean, I don't think it's going to hold up in court, but I really hope it brings attention to the studios. Like, hey, we're just tired of this. Can you just stop it?
You just make an excellent point, though. Like, if you drove 300 miles, you drove from Scotland to London.
That's Scotland. Are there no movie theaters in Scotland? I don't understand what's going on.
Like, we live halfway between Scotland and London.
It's quite a
like, there's definitely other cinemas.
Yeah, we didn't have to do that.
That was my first thing. I was like, that's a long ways for just in those two areas. There's got to be more theaters.
There's one cinema in London, and that's where we've all got to go.
So yeah, the guy didn't do a good job building his case with the whole like, I had to spend money on food. I spent money on food and petrol. Or like, come on, just get to the main point, man. You're ruining this whole thing from the start.
Like, it's really long style.
I can imagine him on Judge Judy with like a load of Warner Brothers lawyers.
No paper. I'll be defending myself.
He's taking
He's got the clip-on tie. I got it. Don't worry. Yeah, so I really hope it's going to bring attention. I don't think it's going to hold any water in court, but like it's good that like fans are finally reacting as opposed to just tweeting or writing mean letters. They're like actually doing some legal things that, of course, WB may just be like, look, we're going to get your money anyway, so we're not even going to respond or care. But I really wish somebody would look at this and see. Fans are reacting, and it maybe a class action lawsuit down the line could actually happen because it is a fine line with the advertising, because yes, with regular like soap, detergent or something, if you say something is in the product, it needs to be in the product. But with like movies and art, especially with trailers and the editing process, it is hard because yeah, we did get a lot of scenes. We saw the first trailer that didn't make it, or even the last trailer didn't make it into the movie. So I think maybe if anything, they should adjust for like the very end. If you have a last trailer coming in within a few weeks or so of the movie, and you should have a very good idea of what the final product should be. So I don't know, but even then, it's a fine line. Like it's really not hard to. It's gonna be hard to regulate.
It depends. Suicide Squad's a funny one because they use such integral characters that they had to show them in a certain way, and then when you get to watch the film finally, they don't come off in the same light as you see them in the trailer. So it is false advertising. You're not seeing them characters that you wanted to see.
I think the funny thing is, though, and again, it's kind of, I know it's what we both do, and so many people online and on YouTube and on Twitter kind of do, analyzing films so much. But I think it is the rise of the internet culture and the fervor around these films, and where there's so much analyzing. Again, the Rogue One trailer, for example, came out on Thursday, and I've already seen, a dozen articles. Here's every sort of detail about the Rogue One trailer analyzed. This is what this theme might mean, and this is this line of dialogue, and is this character in the background, and this might be on this planet, etc. And I think it's that level of examination. And again, it's now, about 4 months before Rogue One comes out, and, it is going through the process of re-editing, and the special effects won't be done, and there's been the reshoots on it and stuff. And despite however you may feel about that film, if it's a big deal that it's being there's reshoots or not, it will be different than it is now, than it will be in 4 months' time. And that is, and so there probably are parts of that trailer that aren't going to be in it. And there was parts in the Force Awakens trailers that weren't in the Force Awakens. But there was parts in the Empire Strikes Back trailer that aren't in the Empire Strikes Back. But in 1980, there wasn't,
time or the technology.
Yeah, there wasn't websites like, IronIron,
There are probably a lot of handwritten notes to people to themselves writing about it.
That's the thing, you couldn't, like when the Rogue One trailer came out, like, I watched it like a dozen times on my phone straight away when I was living home, and then watched it on the computer, and I've watched it since, and like I've read some of these articles and people deconstructing it and stuff, and I know obviously this is literally what we do, and again, like,
same with
yourself and like YouTubers do and stuff, but I think the problem with that is you kind of set yourself such specific expectations. Like, oh, I'm going to see the Joker in this scene, or in this scene, and Harley Quinn's going to be doing this here, and this guy's going to be here. And that may change, and again, from having edited films ourselves, like, the product does change right up till that last moment. And, because you want to make the best thing possible. But that may mean that you do cut out things which meant loads to you when you filmed it. You're like, we've set up shots before in films we've made, which we're like, oh, this is going to look really cool and really interesting and stuff. And maybe it does, but in the film itself, overall, it's just kind of like, oh, I need to get rid of that. And like, and if someone spent, a day making a YouTube video about that specific scene and how cool it's going to be to see that, well, then they will be disappointed. But it's such a hard thing to separate the current way films are pre-anticipated, I suppose, to what they actually will be. And yeah, it's something I guess people are going to have to learn to distance themselves with, or they kind of can't not be disappointed in some way. But it's
yeah, you're totally right. It's the expectations. Everyone's setting their certain expectations based on the information that we're given. A lot of times with trailers, we're given almost, point for point what the movie's going to be like, or you see certain scenes. If you've seen enough movies or trailers, where that's in the third act. That's the beginning. That's a turning point for the character. Like, what certain scenes may, and then when you see them in the movie, you may prove yourself right. But also, yeah, I agree. I think when you're talking about other movies that had trailers and then different footage came out, I think it's also the time that people have to dissect everything, and just the overall reaction of the movie itself. If the movie was, if Suicide Squad was, a 2.5 hour, a brilliant masterpiece, and had all the scenes of the Jokers that we wanted and everything, then people probably wouldn't be, going into the details of the things that were missing. But since the movie was, sort of being panned at this point, now we're finding all the little things that bring it, that prove why it was panned. And like you said, you get all these little dissertations on little pieces on a three second scene. People will spend an hour talking about it.
That's the thing again, the internet, analyzing films and criticizing things and making, that passion around it is phenomenal. But again, it can have that dark side as well, where people will be let down if something doesn't live up to those expectations. And, the DC films are kind of proving that. But then maybe
you get people. Can you have that argument when you've seen this model work for Marvel? Is it just a good trailer but a bad film, or are they just using that to their advantage? Just an exciting soundtrack with some great imagery from the comic books that people love, but then you get there and there's just nothing to it. But it's a complete opposite with Marvel. They've got a really clever.
True, that's the thing again. They're proving, in those same constraints, they are doing it.
Exactly.
But it's something tough to get right, because every other company is struggling to try to do it, and no one's really succeeding.
Not to the level of Marvel success.
Yeah, and hopefully Jeremy Jahns, or wait, is that who is the head of the production other than Ben Affleck for DC?
Jeff Johns.
Jeff Johns. Jeremy Jahns is the movie reviewer. Jeff Johns is the guy. That's what I'm thinking about. Jeff Johns, yes. And so they didn't have a person like a Paul Kevin. Now I'm messing up those names too. Is it Kevin Feige for Marvel? Yes, they don't have a Kevin Feige, so they didn't have it for the first two, and they're like, let's get Ben Affleck, since he, obviously knows what he's doing, and then we'll get Jeff Johns because he's a comic book writer, so he knows, at least the backstories of how these characters should be molded, as opposed to just tossing them on the screen like WB's kind of been doing.
That's it. Yeah, I think Jeff Johns is going to make a massive difference to this. Some of the best comics that DC brought out over the last 15 years have all been by his hands. He's got a really good knowledge. I think he's got the biggest collection out of anybody that works at DC for comics. Fun fact. But he just knows so much of the backstories and so much of the lore and what things are canon and what you can play with. I think that's where they fail with the DC film. Sorry, you've got to use very specific things. Like if you look back at the Christopher Nolan films,
they weren't exact copies of the comic books, but they used that kind of crime drama like style to really good effect with some of the most canon points of Batman, like he's fighting crime and like the take on Ra's al Ghul and the take on Bane. Maybe these weren't exactly like the comic books, but that added more to that character, that made them a bit more realistic.
Or the fact that Batman's a detective, maybe he should do some detecting.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where, again, though, Marvel's biggest strength in some ways is that they're kind of not tied to what happens in the comics.
Yeah.
You know, they take little bits of inspiration from here and there and everywhere, and just kind of make something new and interesting because of it. Again, you know, Civil War isn't like what the comics of Civil War were like at all. You know, it took the name and it took kind of Captain America and Iron Man at different sides of the argument.
Some great imagery.
But like, and you know, like they took some interesting points from that. Again, the Shield thing that came up in the finale.
Yeah.
But apart from that, it was kind of like all stuff that was made for and around this film and based in the cinematic universe that this film was happening. Again, it was because of what had happened in Ultron, because of what had happened in the first Avengers, you know, where these massive events had kind of taken place.
Yeah, it brings more depth and levity to the story when you're bringing in some past experiences and the characters evolving at this point where it's like almost every DC's almost kind of been a standalone. So you're just getting reintroduced, or you're not introduced enough by the time the movie is over in some cases.
I don't like the thing with like Suicide Squad, like one of the early things in the film is where they're talking about, and again, spoilers if anyone hasn't watched it by now.
Spoilers, anybody?
But you know, it talks about Superman being dead at the start of it. And it's like, oh, that's interesting. Like it's linking directly from the end of that last film, and then they never mention it again. Like literally, then it's just kind of like, oh, okay, like
the post-credit scene, like literally stole that straight from Marvel's like kind of like idea.
Yeah, that's the thing that kind of turned Batman into Nick Fury crossed with Iron Man.
Getting files. He's already got like the Dropbox file. Now he's got
yeah, that's what I was wondering. It's like, why does he need these files? Didn't he just steal everything from Lex?
Like, he needs the hard copy. He needs that printed.
But then they released the exciting little bit of Justice League where he's going around and meeting the characters before we've seen that scene. So it was kind of continuity again. What's wrong with them?
Well, with Marvel, it was like more of like they were just planting the seed in regards to Iron Man at the end. It was like we're mentioning it, but like DC, they're like, this is what we're doing. They might as well like put a blueprint on the screen whenever they have these extra scenes. But like Marvel is like dropping hints, like, hey, this might be happening soon.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's the difference of subtlety to like sort of really painful. Like again, like the scene early in Suicide Squad with the Flash, capturing
a boomerang.
Yeah. Like, you know, like it's just kind of like it's not explained, and it's just kind of the Flash showing up and being like, "Oh, I'm going to send you." But like, it's just kind of saying like, "Oh, hey, do you know that program you like on TV, The Flash?" Like, The Flash is in that movie. It's not exciting.
Yeah.
It's just kind of that, as opposed to like being there for a reason, or even being there subtly. It's just kind of really like, here's a character who you like, and he's in our film, so you have to like us now.
Well, even the same thing in Batman v Superman when the Flash showed up in the theater. When I saw the scene, I'm like, what the hell is going on right now? I mean, seeing it a few times, you get it, but now you're like, whoa! Like it just flew out of nowhere.
Yeah. That's it. It's just kind of like, you know, you like this character on TV, so you'll probably like. Oh, it's such a weird. Again, it seems like from a corporate level, because story-wise, there's no reason.
No one needs to know anything. We know they all get caught. You don't have to show out how they got caught or why. It's
just a little. Yeah, again, it is trying to force it again, which Marvel haven't, and you know, and I think that is the difference. And when it becomes noticeable at that level, it's just kind of awkward to watch. And
if we're having these thoughts about it, surely the board members must be why they have to have so much creative input when they obviously haven't got the knowledge or experience, and they're just going for the money side of things. Should be really left in the hands of the creators and the people that make these films. With very little input from the people that give you the money for it. I think that's where it's really good.
I mean, but I suppose, again, just to play devil's advocate, it's easy to see why there is that level of corporate involvement in films which have become so huge. It's all of these, you know, they're all like, you know.
Yeah, there's no middle budget movies anymore. It's all high end budget.
But will be around 180. You're saying about 185 million, I think, is kind of for it. You know, Batman vs Superman over 200 million. You know, we mentioned Star Wars there. You know, Rogue One will be $150 to $200 million movie. And you know, when that amount of money is being spent on something, and especially when you've had flops in recent years, like, you know, Disney have had their experiences of it. They've had John Carter, and they've had Tomorrowland and stuff like that.
It's like that's their marketing for the John Carter and the Edge of Tomorrow.
That's the thing, you know, be it the film itself or be it the way it's handled and marketed. When you've spent that amount of big money on it, and you know, with Ghostbusters is going through this at the moment. We're saying it's made less than it kind of was expected to. But when you've got that many people involved giving you the money, like if I was given $200 million of my money to anything,
I'd be keeping an eye on, like, what's going on down there?
Like that's the thing, yeah. If I like lent you like a tenner, I'd be like, how's that money doing? Like, you know what I mean? So I guess like from a corporate point of view, I can see that, but because of that, you do then get a film which feels like
committee, formed by committee. Yeah.
Exactly, it feels fake and doesn't feel like an artistic product, but just feels like a product.
Yeah.
And I think that's something we need to try to move away from.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think you nailed the head on the head. It's becoming to the point. It's the way movies are made now. The budget just calls for, you know, the studio needs to be involved to make sure that all the money they're putting in, because like you said, it's a business. They got stakeholders. They have shareholders. They have their board members. All that stuff. They all have to hit numbers at some point. So yeah, this is a business. So we have to make sure we hit as many people as possible. But there's just that fine line where yes, you need to let the creators create their own, and if you are going to edit, don't edit by committee or by doing some polls of what people like just look at the movie, see what you think works, bring in some other people. Just I don't know, I think there's going to be a different way they can do it now, as opposed to, like you said, bringing in board members who are basically putting their input on how the movie should be cut.
Yeah, that's the thing, you know. But again, Marvel, you know, are doing it. They've got Kevin Feige, they've got like a core team who like are supervising these things
like
and knocking it out the park pretty much every time.
Absolutely, yeah.
Again, you know, Star Wars have that core creative team, the story group, you know, they call them, and you know, we've seen them on Star Wars Rebels, the TV series. You know, they had them on Force Awakens. You know, there's that nervous perhaps anticipation about Rogue One. But again, I was at Star Wars Celebration last month.
Very lucky.
I was gonna say, I'm never bringing it in. But you know, like seeing those people working and talking about it, being so passionate about the story, but also being good storytellers and being people who can handle the brand, is important. And you know, and then kind of letting them do that because they know what will make a good Star Wars film or a good Marvel film. And hopefully this will be the case with a good DC film. And now they've just got to prove they can do it.
You need fans to make the films as well. I think that's what they miss. Because I know Zack Snyder's a big fan of DC, but I don't think he's got the passion for it as much
as funny, like that's like it's one of those things where he kind of visually does, and there's stunning visual bits in it. But then, just, as you were saying, you know, he's very much a visual storyteller, and when comics are only partly that, you know what I mean? It's got to have the actual emotional thing to be a film. So, you know, hopefully, you know, Ben Affleck is a great director.
Yeah,
Jeff Johns is a great creator. You know, hopefully this will pay off in time.
Yeah, I think it's a good cocktail of talent that they have right now. At first, they just had one. Now they need to add a little bit more.
Yeah. And you know, again, like that sizzle reel for Justice League does look good.
Yeah,
you know, everything for Wonder Woman does look good.
Really good. I'm really liking the look of Wonder Woman.
Yeah, so I mean, as well. So there's a lot of potential. So hopefully it pays off.
Yeah, DC's definitely distinct themselves. You can tell their look has like that more distinct. I mean, not realism, but like, you know, Marvel has that comic book looky feel in regards to the CGI and things. Where, you know, DC's trying to be a little more grounded. But man, the cinematography so far, like on the Wonder Woman and like we've seen so far in some Justice League. Yeah, I'm excited. And like you said, bringing in Jeff Johns and Ben Affleck to help, you know, alongside. I think this is the first step to them realizing, okay, we have this one talent, but we need to bring other talent with that to make this all come together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's hope. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. So yeah. So well, that was everything I wanted to talk today in regards to all the WB drama. Don't worry, it's never going to end. So we may be able to talk about it again soon. So this is not the end.
We'll have nothing to talk about.
Yeah, I know. We'll see. We'll see when we get the extended version of Suicide Squad and then Wonder Woman and all those. So we'll be getting back into it. But unless you guys had anything else you want to bring up, we want to talk about.
No, thanks for having us, man. Yeah, you can find us on YouTube for Cinema Minutes. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and SoundCloud as well.
Nice.
We both watch or listen to us and get in touch with those ways. I'm on Twitter at Chris J. Allen as well.
At Grant Robson 11. So stay in touch.
And yeah, it's been great having us. And
thanks very much, Carlos.
Yeah. What do you guys got? Another video coming up you want to promote?
We've just had our Suicide Squad one out. We're working on. We've been doing some retro reviews. So we've got Temple of Doom.
Nice.
But yeah, we've covered recently Ghostbusters and Star Trek. Rogue One,
Star Wars.
A lot of Star Wars stuff in there as well. But,
you got to get it in there.
But yeah, so if you've understood our voices,
I hope the Geordie accent.
We'll put an accent bar at the bottom. Maybe it'll translate. We'll see. But no, you guys are great. I love having you guys on. But yeah, for everybody else, for me, you can find me YouTube, Circus of Time Review, Twitter, Circus of Time, and Instagram as well. Next week I'll do another podcast, and then also doing a Perceptive retrospective. I'll probably diving a little more deep into the extended Blu-rays and extended editions, a little more deeper, why we need them and why we don't need them. So we'll be working on that for next week. But again, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for being on the show today, and everyone, thanks. And be excellent to each other.
See you later.